Welcome to another episode of Words with Walner. We are on episode 9. Can you believe it?
I can't. And by the way, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you.
And Happy New Year to everyone here that's helping out with Words with Walner. Excited to be here. I can't believe it's 9 either.
Of course, we have a special guest here today as well. Kristin Kladis is with us today, and Kristin has a big announcement this month. She became partner of the Walner Law firm. And so we're excited for Kristin, and with Kristin being here, we'd love to know more about that and more about your journey to the Walner Law firm. Kristin, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about, how you got started, where'd you go to school, and how did you end up with John Walner at Walner Law?
I went to law school at Thomas Cooley in Lansing, Michigan, graduated in 2006. I started at Walner's in 2003. I was an intern there for about 3 years, those 3 summers. And when I graduated, I then was given and offered a position by John. But how I know John and how I know the Walner Law firm is through my mom, who was there for 56 years as the office manager. So me kind of growing up there and going to visit her, I've always known that I wanted to get into this and wanted to be in law, but having that availability, I should say, has been great. And so that's how I, got into working with John, and it brought us here 20 years later.
Wow, 20 years.
Yeah.
It's like, our firm was started in 1961 by my father, Harvey Walner, and Kristin's mom, Josephine, came and started working, I think, in 1968 for Rosner and Walner, it was called back in 1961, before it was Walner Law in 1973, or Harvey L. Walner Associates Limited. So, going to my dad's office and helping out on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday, ever since I was about 9 years old. And then Kristin and her sister, Danielle, also came to the office, and Kristin's uncle, Johnny Rizzo, worked in the office. And it's like we all grew up together, helping the people in Chicago that were the victims of, people's negligence. So we all worked together as a family with each other and to help those in the community that were so wrongly injured by the fault of others. So, having Kristin by my side through all these years is exciting, and it's illuminating because she has different perspectives on how to handle cases and how to handle our employees and work together to achieve a common goal. And we bring different, energy and approaches, and it's a symbiotic relationship that works. Although, you may fight or disagree on how to handle, business or clients, we do agree that we work for you. We work for the clients. And that is our main goal, is to produce the best results for our clients, but to do it through family and knowing each other for so long, like the clients getting our relationship since we were kids. We've known each other basically our whole lives. And of course, I've known Kristin's mom my whole life.
Yeah.
So we bring that dynamic to our clients, which I think differentiates from all other firms in Chicago.
It's a family affair.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Our
This is a family
your
affair.
family, right?
Yes.
That's great.
So we're lucky. So I'm
We have
lucky
a
to have
bond.
her. For good or bad.
Yeah.
Well, Kristin, your area expertise is medical malpractice. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and how'd you get started with that? And
So when I first started, there was another attorney there, Shelby Canarish, and I worked under him. And he took a lot of the medical malpractice cases in, so new calls that would come in, consultations, things like that. So he kind of taught me how to bring those cases in, how to answer, certain questions that the clients had, how to ask the correct questions to see if it is a case and to see if we do want the client, to come on board. So I think in doing, kind of helping him then taught me what I need to do and how I need to kind of gear, to bring those cases in. And he also introduced me to other law firms and other connections that we have been working with now for 15 years.
You know, Kristin and I, we both have had the benefit of working for other people that are experts in the field. And Shelby started our firm in 1973. And of course, Annette Penhasek, Bruce Goodhart, Sandra Vandecotter, Kathleen Reynolds were all people that were, you know, top trial lawyers that worked at Harvey L. Walner Associates Limited that brought their experience and handed it down to us who were younger than them. And, you know, we've had a significant amount of trial work at Walner Law, and we have developed a coterie of experts in all aspects of medical malpractice that have been developed through many trial lawyers that have worked at our firm, from Bruce Goodhart, Shelby Kanarish, Kathleen Reynolds, Annette Penhasek, and Sandra Vandecotter, and on down through also Jeff Johnson. These are all, and Bennett Baker, these are all big-time trial lawyers in Chicago that have gained the experience working at Walner Law and trying these cases. And through these trial lawyers and networking throughout the United States and going to conferences and trial lawyer conferences throughout the United States, we have met the top orthopedic surgeons, neurologists, neurosurgeons who have helped us evaluate our cases. And Kristin meets with these experts, and she goes obviously throughout the United States to our national trial lawyers conventions and our AAJ conventions and meets with these doctors and gains insight into what they're doing, what cutting edge research they're doing in their business to bring their expertise and their knowledge to our cases. And we're blessed to have them on our side. And it's only done throughout 30 or 40 years of building and nurturing these relationships. And we continue that to this day on behalf of our clients, both in nursing home cases and medical malpractice cases.
Tell us more about a particular case that you were able to help an individual out with medical malpractice, and the one that, you know, it could be, or a couple cases that really come to mind that were just really egregious and that you really helped that person.
So if I can, I want to talk more about a personal injury case.
Okay.
Yeah,
do that too.
That I helped, and it dealt with a wrongful death. And there were two people that were injured. It was a wrongful death, husband and wife. The husband had passed away and the wife was still alive. And this was still one cases that I hold near and dear to my heart. I still talk to my client. I call her once a month. I talked to her over Christmas just to see how she was doing. It was a horrible accident where the husband was driving, wife was the passenger, and they were T-boned by someone who failed to stop at a stop sign. And it was significant impact, significant damage. Unfortunately, the husband, they were both taken by ambulance to the hospital, but the husband passed away 5 days later. And the wife lived and thankfully recovered significantly. She did have to leave their home that they lived in together because emotionally she couldn't stay there. So she's in a nursing home, and I've visited her, and not in the nursing home, I'm sorry, it's a retirement home. Mm-hmm. She doesn't like to call it that. So it's a retirement home, and I've gone to visit her there. She's very, very sweet, and this case brought a ton of insight into trial work, because we were going to trial, versus, not going to trial and settling the case, and then filing petitions and wrongful death matters, and then going to probate. I mean, there's so many different aspects when you're dealing with a wrongful death case that it's not just we're settled and we're done. There's so many different types of judges that you have to go before and courts that you have to go before. So it brought a ton of insight for me personally in dealing with a personal injury case, but then also a wrongful death case, dealing with heirs, their children. They got married later in life, so he had different children that I had to, be very, sensitive about, with her not getting money and however it was. But it definitely is still a case that I hold near and dear to my heart. And the client, I like I said, I'll always remember her and hold her as one of my most favorite clients.
Every personal injury case is personal.
Yep.
And it's personal to us, and it's personal to the fabric of the family that we represent. In that particular case, we have it was an interesting dynamic. We had the wife was really taking care of this gentleman, and they fell in love through, the caregiving, and they got married in a corporate, and what happened in this situation is we're dealing with a family that was kind of broken because the adult children of our client who passed, unfortunately, weren't on speaking terms with the wife. So we're dealing with things that we know about in our own family: divorce, stepchildren. It was a hard dynamic to deal with because you have the children. In that situation, we had the children of our client who lived all at odds with his children, and we have a corporation that we're holding liable. A corporation, made a left-hand turn in front of our clients and obviously killed the driver of our car. And now we're dealing with the health, welfare, and well-being of a person that broke her neck. And the daughter and her children are trying to get money all different ways. It was sad, and we're moving residences and trying to get her healthy, and other people are trying to get her money. So that was a real-world situation where throw away the law and the corporate's negligence and the misconduct and the horrendous misconduct in driving the car that day and ripping this family apart. It was more like, let's settle this family down so we can concentrate on this case instead of people coming out of the woodwork demanding money and disparaging not their stepmother. Is that what you call the wife of your father?
Yeah, stepmother.
Yeah, and that was a real. It was very hard emotionally for us, and obviously for them. That's what makes that case a little bit different.
It becomes very emotional. Obviously,
Right.
you develop very personal relationships with your clients.
Right.
It sounds
Absolutely.
Especially in that situation when that was the first case we're dealing with family members on both sides who were previously married in their respective lives and then got married but didn't have children together, but they do have children with opposite needs. And when you pass away, who is the rightful heirs and who's going to get money from this case? And I don't know if we want to talk about this case anymore, but these children had not spoken to the father in 10 years, and we had 20 years, and we had to find these heirs because we knew about them because our client told us that there was children of the decedent, and we had to track them down through private investigators and social media. So the case turned out to be like made for TV.
Yeah. And you have to be very sensitive, to them. And the wife was not only dealing with the loss of her husband, but then having to deal with a lawsuit.
And the children.
Right.
And his children.
And his children. So
and her children who wanted her money.
Yeah, there was so much that, you had to really step back and say, I'm going to be a lawyer, but I'm also going to be your friend, and I'm going to hold your hand, and I'm going to help you, and, I'm going to call you, and we're going to talk like adults. We didn't always talk about the case. We didn't always do that. I would just ask her how she was doing.
Kristin brings sensitivity to her clients because she is, part of a loving family and an extended family of aunts, uncles, and cousins, and they celebrate all their holidays and traditions together. And I've been part of it. I've been to, Kristin's wedding and anniversaries and birthdays in her family and funerals, sadly. So one of the reasons that Kristin's a partner here and a valued member of our family of Walner Law and a dedicated trial attorney is because she brings her breadth of experience in, just her family, visiting loved ones in the hospital and seeing her family that I know her close to passing away from cancer, and her uncles passing away, and other family members struggling through certain things, gives her a special knowledge of how to, handle our clients. Besides litigating for them, you got to also be sensitive to where they come from, and that's why she's a valued asset to Walner. Be a valued asset to you when you, hire our firm. This is who you get. You get a person that is cognizant of the emotions and struggles that you're having in your own family, what you've experienced. I think that Walner Law is an asset to you, and Kristin brings that experience, breadth of knowledge, and knowledge of what could be going on in your family too, and that's what makes our firm special. Kristin coming aboard is an asset and benefit to you.
Well, you guys are small enough
Thanks,
that
John.
you can provide personalized service, maybe more so than
Right.
anyone else.
That's why I think Kristin will shine, and that it's a continuing relationship that'll go on for a long time. And I think and I hope that that if you're, seeing this podcast or listening to us here today, that you feel and hear that this is the truth. This is where we come from. This is our family together, outside of the office, in the office, and we'll work for you and your family to bring you the best results possible.
Yeah, and I'm delighted, John, that you've given me that vote of confidence in naming me partner. This is something I've worked for forever. So
The vote was close.
thank
The
you.
vote was close.
It was,
The vote between
Went-
you and
They
you.
went like,
Right?
like we're seeing with McCarthy, he needed 15 votes to get the speakership. Kristin, it was only one. It was on the first ballot.
Right?
Well, it really is fantastic, and congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
do have a question, though. I'm going to ask each of you the same question, but I want you to answer it individually. And we'll start with Kristin.
Sure.
Somebody calls you, and I would imagine the first question that they say is, "Hey, Kristin, I think I might have a case."
Mm-hmm.
What are the questions that you're gonna ask them right off the bat, even just to determine whether this is a case?
Sure. Are you talking about personal injury or medical malpractice?
We're gonna go with med mal with you and personal injury with John.
Sure. So my first question on a med mal case that I get in is, what is your current injury? So they have to be injured. If they tell me, well, let me start by telling you what happened, that could take hours, because those cases are complex. So my first question is, what's your injury? Once we get that down, then I work backwards and I'll say, okay, so, when did this happen? Was it an operation? Was it a procedure? Was it a failure to diagnose? Was it a failure to treat? Who is the doctor that's treating you or who was treating you? How long had you been treating? When did this happen? When is a very, very important question because there's a statute of limitations. So when did this happen? And then I kind of go from there. I ask them, obviously, background information. I ask them if they have records, if I need to get those records, because every med mal case, we have to review records before we know if it's a case. Personal injury is a little bit different, and John will get into that, but for a med mal, we need records to review. So
Medical records are really key. So if anybody is going to call you, they got to make sure they have these in hand so that they can share with you. Then they would email them to you or something like that.
Correct. And if they don't, I always follow up in an email and say it was a pleasure speaking with you today. I would love to work with you on this case. If you have the records, please email them to me. If not, I can send them a medical authorization form so that we can get the records. But mostly it's easier for the clients to get the records because once they see something from an attorney, it kind of spirals. So usually it's easier for the client to get those records, and they can do that. Nowadays, everything is online. They have portals. So we go from there, and then I do a follow-up call every 30 days with them, and we hope to get as many clients as we can in from those calls.
Great. And John, I was driving down the Dan Ryan, and out of nowhere, this truck hits me. Do I have a case?
You know what we've talked about in the previous 9 episodes is just because you're injured, you don't have a case. And we've talked about this with all of our guests that, who have been so grateful to, we've been grateful that they've shared their time. And just as an addendum to what Kristin just talked about with us on medical malpractice, how does this injury affect your life? Like, do you just have a bruise because a doctor misplaced the IV in your arm? Or did the doctor, were you not secured in your bed and you fell out and you had a little, chip to your kneecap? Because medical malpractice cases are very expensive because we have to, in order to prove medical malpractice, is that some doctor had to have a deviation of the care that's recognized as a standard of care in the Chicagoland area. What is a standard of care? Did they breach that care? What is the injury? And so because doctors
of that injury.
Right, because the doctors charge so much money to review the records to see if another doctor may have deviated from the standard of acceptable care, that our cases, unfortunately, you have to have an injury that is economically feasible. We've talked about this with many guests before. Like, what is it economically feasible for a law firm like Walner Law to take your case? And we're saying a significant permanent injury. What is a permanent injury? That is brain damage, That is a loss of a limb, that is nerve damage where you have failure to use your limb. It could be loss of eyesight, a traumatic brain injury,
Death.
but not, of course, death
Yeah.
but we in medical malpractice, unfortunately, you can't just do bumps and bruises or de minimis injuries. They have to be permanent. In fact, and how people say, well, what is my malpractice case worth? Say the doctor, who are you in relationship to your family, to your job? Like, are you unable to work for the rest of your life? Are you unable to care for your children? Are you unable to care for your adult, of your parents? All of these things matter to Walner. Like, who are you? What does your injury represent to your life in general? These are all considerations we take before we take a medical malpractice case. We first have to understand the injury and how it affects your life and how it affects those that rely on you in your lifetime. So it's very complex, a medical malpractice, because you're putting so much money into it. And we're obviously, to win your case, we are hiring the finest experts in the United States, no matter where they are. Who is the leading expert for you to win your case? And of course, in gathering records, the records, the cost of getting them are tremendous, and Walner Law does put all that money up. We will never let you put your money up. We will use our money. We will fight for you. If you are injured as a result of a doctor's malfeasance or negligence in treating you, we will put our money, our reputation on the line to fight for you. And we've talked, a lot in our previous 9 episodes about what you just mentioned, trucking accidents. And the same is true just for medical malpractice or nursing home. Did someone, breach their duty of care to you as a member of the road? And as a result of that breach, were you severely injured, requiring you to have surgeries, a hospital, Medicare care, stay off of work, and not be a valued member of your family, and you're unable to work and pay the mortgage or pay the rent or pay for food? These take a toll on your family. And we've talked about this many times, and our heart goes out to you. And when you're a victim of someone's negligence. So Walner Law continues to fight for you. We continue to take your injury. It's personal to us, and we know it's personal to you. And we're glad that we have the opportunity to fight for you.
What's your last word on Kristin?
Obviously, gratitude. We have to say, we're grateful for Kristin and her family. We're grateful for her mother producing such a go-getter daughter, and her father, who brought such great values to Kristin. We're grateful that she's bringing her values, her acumen, her intelligence, and her knowledge to work alongside me and our firm. And we're grateful, and we wish, a great 2023 year for Kristin and her family, and, welcome aboard to a real ownership and partnership in Walner Law. So gratitude would be the number one word that I would describe this new relationship.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
That was very nice.
And Kristin, how about your last word with John Walner?
Well, to John, I'm elated to be at the place where I'm at right now in my career. I think, as a female attorney, we're a minority, and
Yeah.
I've been working with men my whole life. And like I said before, I'm delighted that, he's given me this vote of confidence to say that, you have made something and you've done something. And I, like he said, he's grateful for that. And I'm grateful to him, obviously, for coming in 20 years ago and him giving me this opportunity. I will never forget when I was transitioning from an intern to him giving me an offer. His question to me was, what are you going to do for this firm? I remember him asking me that, like, what do you plan on doing, or why do you want to be an attorney? Why do you want to be here, kind of thing. And I'll never forget that question. And my answer was to be the best attorney that I can and to learn from everyone at the firm, which I have, and to be mentored, by John and by everyone else. It's been great. And I think, like I said, you want to shatter that glass ceiling. I think what I've done so far, I've accomplished so far, has been great. I'm very proud, and I'm happy, like I said, with John, and grateful to John to be in this partnership now with
You're
him.
elated that I'm grateful?
I'm grateful to
Elated
you.
and grateful.
Yes.
There we go.
I'm happy, and I'm grateful to you for making me
There you go.
a partner and for noticing, my achievements and my accomplishments.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
2023 is going to be a banner year. We're excited.
Yeah, we want to expand.
Let's go. It's January 9th, and we're excited to, or it's January 11th, I'm sorry. And let's warm up January.
And we look forward to representing more clients, bringing on more clients and to continue, to represent our awesome clients that we have and to bring new clients on. I think that's a huge thing that we can do together.
Well, congratulations to both of you. And if someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way? John?
Obviously, just go to our website, walnerlaw.com, and you can message me directly or just call 312-8-million, ask for me, and I'll return your call. And we will have we could talk about any topic you want.
That's great. All right, you guys, thank you again for being here and being a part of the podcast. And we will see you next month when we have a new podcast. It'll be episode 10. Can you believe that? And so we look forward to seeing everybody. And this is A Family Affair. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
you. Thanks, guys.